The MCU is not known for their villains exactly. They're fixing it a little bit now. But what I'm going to be doing here is ranking all of the MCU villains. So let me get right into it. So first is Abomination. So I don't think he's a bad villain. He fits for Hulk. He's actually a pretty good villain in that movie for what it is. And he's just decent. So I'm going to put him in the C category. And honestly, this only goes down to D because none of them are like terrible, ruin the movie villains. But Abomination gets a C. Might move these around at the end later, but he's just C for now. Going on with C is going to be Alexander Pierce. I'm going to put him also in C because he's got good enough moments on screen, but it's really Bucky in that movie that's the actual villain that you care about. So Alexander Pierce is fine, and it was cool to see him back in Endgame, but this is where he goes for now. And next up is Dormammu, who I'm going to put at a D. And it's just because he has like 2 minutes of screen time, and we don't really see any of his actual powers or anything used yet. But it is likely that he'll come back. So for now, he gets D, but he could go up if he's in more movies. I swear I'll start to be positive at some point, but Ego is going in D. I did not like Guardians 2 at all, and most of it is because of this whole Ego twist. You don't find out who the villain is until like the very end of the movie, and it's just a CGI blob fest at the end. So for me, it gets a D rating. Next up is Ghost, who is going to go in the C category. She's fine in her movie, but you know, there's a couple of villains in there, and she's really more of like an anti-hero. She's just trying to stay alive, but she's a good character all around. But as a villain, just to see in a, she's not the main focus of the movie, really doesn't matter too much, so she gets C for now. Justin Hammer, I actually like him quite a lot. For his movie, he's also going in C, and now we start getting some positives. So Hela, I'm putting at A. Thor Ragnarok is pretty much just a comedy, but then if you add Hela in, it actually adds some dramatic tension to the movie and some urgency, and there's relationships because, obviously Thor's brother. So Hela, the history there with Odin is all very interesting. Her powers are very cool, and she just fits the movie perfectly, makes it a perfectly balanced movie to me. So she gets an A from me. Ironmonger gets a B. Just the classic kind of opposite of our hero, and he fits the movie good. Iron Man's a great movie, and like I said, he fits perfectly for that. They didn't need bigger stakes or anything. Next up, we have Kaecilius, who kind of is the definition of the bad Marvel villain. Once again, he's just kind of the counterpart, like, to our hero, same-ish powers, and kind of the same guy, but just took a different path and became bad instead of good. And once again, Doctor Strange, I just rewatched this movie today, actually. I really enjoy the movie and the effects and the heroes and Doctor Strange learning his powers, but the villains definitely hold it down, and this is another one for the D category for me. But we get to another bright spot with Killmonger. He has everything that they need to have going forward. Fits in without being connected to all the other movies in just Black Panther. Has motivations connected to Wakanda and the hero, and you can side with him. You feel where he's coming from. That's what we need more of in the future. So this one is the easiest pick up here so far. Loki, obviously S tier. Avengers, Thor, just you never know when he's actually going to be good. You always feel like he's actually doing the right thing. Then he does something that makes him the villain again. And spoiler alert for Infinity War, which you've probably seen by now if you're watching this, but how he dies, he goes out kind of like a hero trying to do the right thing, but just the character behind him is always, he has funny moments, and his motivations are so mixed. You never know what to believe with Loki, if he's actually turning and going to be good and help his brother, or if now he's just wanting to take over the Earth. This is really the first villain in the MCU that paved the way for like the Thanoses of the future. Now, I said there's no F tier villains, but if there was an F tier on this list, easily, you know what? You're gonna see this happen right here, live. Add row below. We will make the color, we'll make it light gray. And close out of this. Oh, I went to yellow. That's fine. Malekith gets his own tier. I want the color change. There we go. Malekith gets this own tier all to himself. He's that bad of a villain. He's just bland. You barely remember anything about him in a very forgettable movie anyways. He does not help at all. Like, you can watch this movie, it would be perfectly fine without Malekith at all. He's so bland, no character, no really good motivations that we get to see. We don't care about him at all. We don't understand why he's doing what he's doing. And even if you do, you don't, like I said, you don't care about what he's doing. It's just a classic villain destroying things plot, and it's very boring. Luckily, Thor fixed their problem with Hela. As you see, she's in the A tier. But Malekith is a very boring villain. Red Skull gets a C from me. I like him before he actually reveals himself as being the Red Skull. And in general, just the first part of that movie I like better than the second half. But he fits well. He's kind of, once again, the opposite of our hero, but the same powers and same guy, just went bad. And once again, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I feel like it's a little lazy. But he works well in the movie he's in, and it does set up the values for Captain America, how it's like the complete opposite, so it works in that situation. Guardians fans might disagree with me. Ronan gets a D grade from me. He's just, I don't care about this character at all. First of all, he looks terrible. Every time I see him on screen, it just doesn't look like he fits in these movies. He looks very poorly made. Very boring character. And Captain Marvel doesn't help that at all. He just doesn't really succeed ever. He tries to break away from Thanos, which could be interesting, and he's going to overpower Thanos. And that goes nowhere, obviously, so really nothing here. Maybe if we get another Captain Marvel sequel that's still, like, maybe in the 90s or something, there could be more here. I think that's what they're leading up to. But as it is right now, I just don't care for this hero at all, or this villain, not hero. And they need to make him look a little bit better, because like I said, he just doesn't look like he fits in these movies. Sonny Burch, I mean, this actor I love. He's okay in this movie. I like his accent.
Now, Usman is a master at extracting information from the unwilling through psychoactive means.
And his motivations aren't the best, but he does have some funny moments, some good moments with the truth serum stuff, and he is a good enough villain to keep the plot moving, more so than Ghost in this movie. I think they're both just average, but together they work together for this. But on their own, they're both just kind of average. You could kind of just have one or the other, and it would still be an okay movie. But it's fine. Just fine villains. Nothing really too special here. And obviously he doesn't have any powers or anything. He's just evil. Next we have Thanos, which I think we all know is going in the S tier. Obviously super powerful. The only one to really like beat the Avengers or a hero in general pretty much. And it lasts for a whole movie. And the character building they give him in Infinity War makes you care and see where he's coming from, and you know he's wrong, and his motivations are skewed, and his visions of what a perfect world is not right, but you can see that, and his interactions with Gamora and all that are great stuff, and it's a perfect example of building up the hype and living up to it and exceeding it once you get there. Since the first Avengers movie, they've been building up to this, and it worked, and it paid off perfectly. Now this one might be a little controversial, but I'm going to put Ultron in the A category. I really enjoyed his dialogue's great.
Had to kill the other guy. Wouldn't have been my first call. But down in the real world, we're faced with ugly choices.
You can see where it's coming from, because the Avengers really, this sets up Civil War pretty perfectly, and obviously the movie sets up a bunch of other things in the future, but him alone, Ultron, sets up kind of the conflict that happens in Civil War, because he sees from the outside the destruction and the bad that happens from the Avengers saving things, and obviously they're doing good, but there's side effects to it, and that's his whole motivation. He's designed, and he just sees pretty much the internet, and he sees all the stuff they've done, and he wants to change it. So I think his motivation's great. He has great quotes. He's menacing enough. They could have made him more menacing. The trailers for this really messed that up. If they just in the trailers had him as this like Tony Stark like cracking jokes at everything, people would not have been disappointed with this movie. But it made him look like this super menacing villain. He would have been the most menacing if you just watch the trailers. And then he's just kind of playing everything for jokes. But I still like him. I think he has great moments and fits the movies in perfectly. Next up we have Vulture. who I'm going to put in the A category. He's not really a terrible trying to destroy the world villain, but that's why he works. He's just trying to make means for his family using this tech, and he's just a robber pretty much. That's all he is. His motivations are very clear. You see why he's doing it. You understand where he's coming from. And he doesn't even want to kill Peter Parker, really. He's just trying to say, get out of my way. I'm doing this. Let me do one more thing. Set up my family. And I'm done. And it fits perfectly into Spider-Man Homecoming. Like I said, he's kind of the perfect scale villain. It's not like the end of the universe or anything. And that's why I think these smaller movies should be the solo films. They should just be these smaller stories. And it fits perfectly. Next up, we have Whiplash, who I'm going to put in the D category. I actually like his character moments, but the actual villain part of him is very, very weak. The whole Whiplash idea, obviously I know it's from the comics, but like it just doesn't work. There's too much happening in this movie. He's just not good. But like I said, I like some of the moments when he's like working on his new tech and stuff. I like that, but his actual villain aspects are just not there. This one's probably going to be controversial too. Winter Soldier gets a B, only because we haven't seen enough of him as a villain. In the first Avenger, it doesn't really matter to me. And then in Winter Soldier, he's amazing as a villain. I love him in that movie. I love that movie. It works perfectly with Captain America. The emotions are there. And actually, I feel like I kind of should move him up to A. I'm talking myself into it. I was just going to say, as a hero, I like him better. But really, Winter Soldier, he works perfectly in that. And you really feel for him because it's not him. He's being controlled. It ties in with Tony Stark and Civil War and stuff. And I just talked myself into moving him up into an A. So there he goes, up to A. Yellowjacket, just a C. Once again, we have the similar powers, different mindset of our hero. Fits perfectly for the first Ant-Man movie. Once again, like most DC things, they fit in their movie, but they don't really provide much else. They're just kind of there. He doesn't even interact with Paul Rudd or Scott Lang until very end of the movie, so you don't really have that connection there. There's nothing like competing values or anything, and then it just becomes this little battle between them. But like I said, they don't battle early on in the movie or anything, so he's just kind of an average, fits the movie, but not great or memorable at all. Now Zemo gets a B in an S movie. Obviously he sets it all up, but I don't really, you understand again with his family and all that, the motivations are there. You can see why he wants to break up the Avengers from the inside, and that works perfectly in the movie. But him on his own, I don't think that's really the part of the movie that makes it great. Civil War is great because of the airport fight, because of the tension between Iron Man and Captain America and the decisions they make and their values. Zemo, once again, he orchestrates it all, so that's why he gets a B, but he doesn't really on his own. Not much there, and he's not too interesting. And finally, we have Yanrog. He's just okay in my eyes, and okay is not good enough for a C in this case. He's just boring. He's nothing special. He's not different than any of his other people that he works with, really. He's just there. He just lied to our hero, and there's no interesting battles or anything. Doesn't have like any interesting powers. He's pretty much just a liar, and they're on the wrong side of a war, but there's no interesting things here. There's no character for him. You don't know his history or any of that. He's just kind of here as the bad guy that you don't learn that he's the bad guy until the end of the film. So my whole point of this was to make it quick and concise, but if you want me to actually explain and have in-depth analysis on these, I can do another one or one on heroes. So let me know what you think. Who was your S tier and who's your F tier villains? I'll see you guys next time.